Hey guys, what's up and welcome back. Let's understand the next topic, which is the Terraform Console. Terraform Console command basically is used to test your Terraform expressions, functions, or interpolations against your existing state file on the configuration file. Let's understand the concept, and thereafter we'll see that how you can use Terraform Console to perform a lot of testing and validation against your config file or your state file. So Terraform Console command launches an interactive CLI environment within your Terraform working directory. This environment allows you to evaluate Terraform expressions, functions, and interpolations directly against your current configuration and the state file. Now, the primary purpose of using Terraform Console command is to aid development, debugging, and understanding that how Terraform evaluates various expressions. So it's a kind of a safer way or interactive space to test your expressions. So you can test your complex expressions, variable interpolations, and function calls before they can be used in your config files. You can perform your inspection against your Terraform state file, and also it helps you to do some kind of debugging. Let's go ahead and let's try to see that how we can use Terraform Console to test certain values or certain functions or expressions out there. So let's hop over to the Visual Studio Code and let's do one thing. I'm going to just go ahead and let's pick one of the folders out there. Let's imagine that I want to use one of the configurations out there. This is the one that you can use. Let's suppose we can use this config. Now this config includes the launching of the instance, and I want to make use of a config which also includes a variable out there. So that we can test whether the variables could be easily tested when we use Terraform Console or not. So we can test our variable outputs, our resources, attributes, everything. So this is the one that I was looking for. Let's go ahead and let's use this file. Now this file consists of the Terraform block. This is the config file, the provider block, and this is the variable that's called environment. This is the variable that's called to_launch. So this environment has a default value of dev. This variable to_launch has a default value of true. And this is the resource block, which is used to deploy an instance. And we have included certain attributes out there, including count, AMI, instance_type, and tags, everything. Let's go ahead and let's use this. So I just open the integrated terminal. And once we open this thing, let's go ahead and let's run the command terraform apply auto approve. Now this is already being configured, so we don't have to configure anything because you can use a Terraform Console command against any of your existing config file. Let's go ahead and let's provision our resources. And very soon you will see that there will be two resources being deployed, because if you see over here, the count of instances would be 2 in this case, right? So 2 instances will be deployed in this case, and we can use these resources or variables and test certain resources, attributes, or variables using Terraform Console. So as you can see that 2 resources are being added, 0 changed, 0 destroyed. Let's clear everything out. And let's go ahead and run the command Terraform Console, and it will automatically open an interactive CLI environment for us to test our Terraform expressions, functions, or interpolations against our state file or the config file, or both. So as you can see that this is the interactive CLI interface. Now it will look for the inputs from you, and once you press enter, it will automatically give the output. So for example, I want to see, let's press Control C first. And first thing first, let's see what are the resources which have been deployed. So Terraform state list. And I can see that these are the 2 instances that have been deployed. Let's pick this first instance. And I run the command Terraform Console. And I want to make sure that I can use this interactive CLI interface to access some of the resources attributes. For example, I want to just get access to the public IP address of this instance that has been launched. As you can see that this shows up. I want to access the public IP address of the second instance that's been launched. I want to access the public DNS name of the second instance that's been launched. And what about the public DNS name of the first instance with index 0? So as you can see that the resources attributes could be easily fetched in real time using Terraform Console. So I don't have to inspect the Terraform state file and get that information from there. Using Terraform Console command, I just get this interactive CLI environment, which could be used to test my expressions or interpolations or functions against my config file and the Terraform state file. As if now this entire information is being fetched from the Terraform state file only. Let's try to fetch some information from the config file. For example, I want to get access to the values of these variables. For example, let's press Ctrl C. Let's see that if we can just go ahead and clear everything out. And let's run the Terraform console command one more time. Now I want to access the value of the variable that is environment. So I want to say, what is the value of what.environment? It is dev. What is the value of the variable or value stored in the variable to_launch? It is true. Previously, we tested some of the resources, or I would say we ran the kind of a test to extract the info of the resources being managed by the Terraform state. So we got access to the public IP address and public DNS name of our instances. Now we are running these type of tests or validations or want to extract the info from the config file itself. So in that case, we can see that what are the values stored inside our variables out there. We can also run some of the or test some of the mathematical operations. We can, for example, say 5 into 50, or we can say what is the length of the following list. So this list include our separate string characters. So what is the length of this list? It is 3, right? So we can run some test against, or we can do some calculations. We can run some arithmetic expressions, mathematical calculations. We can also use this function called length and see that what is the length of this list. So you can also test your expressions, even the functions, or you can also test your interpolations against your config file and the Terraform state file. So that's all about the Terraform console. To cut the story short, I would say to summarize everything that we've discussed right now, Terraform console is a very simple command that can be used to test your Terraform expressions, functions, and interpolations against your Terraform state file and the configuration file. This means that you can extract some of the information that's being included in your config file. So this interactive CLI can be used to fetch the values of the variables that you have declared in your config file or your configuration. Also, you can run some test or you want to fetch some information or test some expressions or test some interpolations against your existing Terraform state file, because Terraform state file holds the latest resources attribute values for all your resources. So you want to extract some of the info from there. You can use this interactive CLI to fetch the information of existing resources, for example, public IP address, public DNS name, and for example, you want to fetch some of the latest attributes. Let's suppose you want to fetch the EBS volume type of the EBS volumes attached to your instances. You can also run some of the tests to perform certain calculations, like let's suppose you can run some lengthy and complex mathematical calculations and get the output from that. Also, you can test your functions as well. So that's all about the Terraform console. Thank you so very much.